Welcome to another episode of Missing Pieces, my weekly audio journal where I bring you along with me on this journey that is my life. Pleasure to have you aboard. This week I'll tell you all about my week, most of which was dominated by two things, but I thought for fun, why don't I bring you through an accounting of each day of my week, and I'll tell you all the things that we get into and up to and the things that were going on inside my brain, as crazy and as scary as that may be. Let's start with Monday. Monday, fun day. Monday, gym day. Monday, errand day. Yeah, we had a lot to do that day, and I never really look forward to the days where we're doing multiple things out and about because I know it takes an incredible amount of time, and that's time that I want to use for things here in the studio, whether it be editing videos or making Lego stuff, but sometimes you got to do things like go to the gym, and we try. The funny story about our gym this week, we traveled for a week last week or 2 weeks ago, and we went to our gym for the first time, and Cody was all excited because there was all these parking spots, and I was like, oh no. So we pulled up, and it's never a good thing when the whole entire parking lot's empty. Maybe at one spot you get lucky, but it's never like this, and it's because, as evidenced by the sign on the door, they had moved. I was like, okay, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was in the cards, but we drove over to the new location, which I have to say is in a much better location in terms of traffic. Like, you may actually know that it exists. We go to Planet Fitness, by the way. But I'll say the old place that we went to, I kind of liked it because it was really convenient to get there and get like on and off the highway for where it was. It was just kind of tucked away on the wrong side of the road. But I also liked the building that it was in because it felt like it was designed to be a Planet Fitness. Like, everything about it was like, this is a Planet Fitness building. When we go to the new place, and I don't know if it's maybe because it's still under construction or they're still like working things out, they were just trying to get the machinery in there, but it just feels like it has zero character. It's right beside a Hobby Lobby, so again, like, there's lots of traffic there. Maybe some middle-aged women look over and they're like, oh yeah, I could probably go over there and get in a treadmill. But this place, it's like way smaller, and everything's just like crammed in there, and it just feels like a assembly line of fitness stuff, whereas the old place kind of felt like there was a section for this, like all the hardcore bodybuilder dudes were in this one section, and then there was a section for like the treadmills and ellipticals, and there was a section for all like the machines that I like to do, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt right. And maybe it's just because I'm not used to the new place, but I just don't like it. I don't like the style of it. I don't like the colors inside. It's not great. But I will say this, there's a couple other gyms in our area, and by far Planet Fitness is the least expensive, like by a long shot. I think it's $10 a month. There's not much you can do for $10 a month. Like, I don't even think you can get a YMCA membership for that. You can get a gym membership with these other places. Like, I looked up one just out of curiosity because I was like, I wonder if there's a place with a better vibe. And it was like $60 a month. And I'm like, okay. The way they operate, I think I probably talked about this when we signed up, but the way Planet Fitness operates is that they get a huge swath of people to sign up, right? And you're like, oh, I'm going to work out. It's January 1st. I'm going to work out every single day this year. And then by January 4th, they're no longer going there, but they don't cancel. So these people are continuously paying $10 a month. And there's a huge amount of people that are essentially subsidizing the people that actually go there. So they are charging me $60 a month, but it's being paid by me and 5 other people that don't go there, is how I think that it operates. And I would have to assume so. So people they just pay, and I don't know if it's because it's difficult to cancel. Maybe they don't let you cancel, or most likely it's just, I might go there someday. $10 a month isn't bad. It's like the Netflix principle, when Netflix actually used to be $10. It's like, oh, I'll sign up for all these subscription things, but you don't realize these things add up over time. And if you're not using something, this is going to be Greg's financial advice of the week. Recording here on Monday, our first day of me outlining here. I'm actually recording this on Sunday, and we're very close to the deadline right now. It's 10:30 in the morning, and I'd like this to be out by noon, Lord willing. If you're not using something, or if you're not finding value in it, either sell it, get rid of it, or cancel it. Because if you're not using it now, you probably will in the future. The Storage Room of Doom needs to learn this lesson. This is a lesson I need to learn for myself, and I'm listing things on eBay. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Making progress. And that's kind of what the whole gym aspect is, making little progress day by day. And it's interesting because, like, I'm seeing the progress, I'm feeling good, and I'm going to keep going there even if I don't necessarily like the new layout. Maybe it'll grow on me. And does it really matter? My machines are there. Does it matter if I like the looks of things? Not really. I'm there to work. I'm not there to look around, for the most part. Anyways, we also went to Lowe's that day. We got some things for like the outdoor section, and it was crazy on Monday. This is a week before Memorial Day. Memorial Day is tomorrow if you're listening to this in real time on Sunday when it comes out, assuming that it comes out on time. Lowe's was crazy. I was like, how are all these people out here? It was unbelievable how like traffic jam inside of Lowe's, the number of people out there buying stuff, particularly in the garden area. But we bought a bunch of stuff. I got some weed and feed for my yard. We got some like potted stuff. Cody had like a list of things to get, and then I had a list too. I got a new board for my chicken gate. I'm making a new gate for my chicken doors outside, and it was just one of those Lowe's runs. I did undo pretty much everything I did at the gym though, because they have a place called Dominic's out front that has hot sausages, and like the smell of it. Cody like joked about us splitting one, and I was like, I had that in my mind then. And then when I went to leave, she's like, no, I better not. But I'm like, you can't back out now. She backed out. I didn't back out. So I ate a hot sausage for lunch that day, and it was delicious. But I was thinking when I was eating the bread from it, I was like, dang, all these carbs. But that's all right. You can have a little cheat every once in a while. After that, we went to a much less, actually still fairly busy place for what it is. We went to like the greenhouse that's right up the road by our house, and we got some various plants and things there. Because I'll have you know, we planted our garden like 3 weeks ago at this point, and it's not doing great. Like I've had to replace a couple things. We grew everything from seed this year, which I'll never do again, because I'm looking at my little tomato plant that's in a cup and it's super small, that I paid a couple dollars for the seeds or whatever. And I say I grew 4 tomato plants out of that because I don't need any more. That cost me $2. I could go there and get like a 4-pack for $3 of ones that are like, 20 feet, no, not 20 feet tall, but like much more sizable. They have the conditions and the expertise and everything doing it early enough makes their stuff way better. So I'm just going to go there and get all of my plants in the future. And I've had to do a few of things where I've replaced them because we haven't had any rain in Pennsylvania for like 2 weeks, maybe more. It's just like nothing. So I've been out watering every night, but when we did a little traveling, I wasn't here to do it. And my plants, they took a hit during that week, and it's been really hard to bring them back. So I've replaced a couple cucumbers. I replaced a zucchini. I'm replacing some tomatoes today, most likely. It's just like, dang it. It's a lot. And I start to think like, why am I doing this? It's so much extra work than it is going to the grocery store. And in terms of like when you start adding up the time, it probably is actually more efficient and less expensive to go to the grocery store and buy a tomato, for example, than it is for me to go out every single night of the week and water tomatoes and pick the weeds and all this. But there's like this sense of pride that I get from having a garden and being able to go out there and pick my stuff. In fact, Cody and I shot a video where we picked our first strawberries of the year, which are doing phenomenally well. I planted those last year, and they just keep growing back and like expanding and having these little runners that go off and make new plants. So that's really good. And there is something special about like growing it yourself. It's just, does it make sense economically? And the answer to that is debatable. Like a tomato, like if you don't factor in your labor, one tomato at the grocery store is kind of expensive, right? Or even just a few tomatoes, even more expensive. You can have a tomato plant that's just producing these things like crazy, to the point where we have too many tomatoes. We're giving tomatoes to the chickens. We're trying to give them away to people. So in that regard, if you don't factor in your labor, it makes sense to have a garden, and if you like the pride from that, and I do. So for those reasons, I'm in, and that's why it's worth it for me. And that was kind of what we got into Monday. It took up most of the day doing all of that stuff, at least the morning, and then I got into the garden stuff in the afternoon. It was a good day. It was a beautiful day outside. The next day was a work day for me. I was like, I have to get things done today. It was Tuesday, and that was an editing day. In fact, I started editing. I have so much footage from things that I've recorded that I was like, I need space. So I started editing the New York trip video that I shot back in October. I had this grand vision of doing like getting all these shots for this New York trip we did back in October, for like kind of joining our friends on her birthday. And I was like, I'm going to get all these cool shots, not really say anything in the video, and then I'm going to do a voiceover, like talking about all the things we're doing. And I just never got around to doing it because I really didn't want to do the voiceover. It causes a lot of stress on me, I feel like, to narrate this thing. And I just like my regular style where I'm live in the moment and bringing people along on that journey. But then when we edited Cody's Amsterdam video, and we got it all edited down, and I was like, I don't want to lose this audio. I really like what's happening here. Even if you're not directly speaking to the camera or saying what's happening, I really like being able to hear the sounds. So I was like, let me see what that would look like for the New York trip. And I had like well over an hour of footage, and maybe even 2 hours. And I think I'm about halfway done with it right now. The video is like 6 minutes long, but it's nice. It works. And I think I'm going to turn that into something. I'm just not sure when I want that to come out. I was like, at this point, it's kind of like when does something like that come out? And I thought, what if I did it for 1 year later? I think we went on October 8th of 2022. What if I had it come out on October 8th of 2023? Just have it drop that day, have it all scheduled and stuff. I just need it done because that footage is, I have it in 2 locations because I don't want to lose it and I can't keep it on my phone. And I'm like, this is clogging up my operation here. So I need to do something with this. So I'm working through that footage, and I did that morning, and I was really happy with it. Like, I was on a roll, and once I start editing, I just love to do it. In fact, I started editing a video this morning of one that I worked on this week that we'll be talking about in great detail here. And I'm like, oh, I gotta stop. I gotta do the podcast. I was like getting totally into it. So that was Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon, I did a Lego live stream. Cody had to go somewhere that day. I think she had physical therapy. She got tendonitis in her shoulder from all of the exercising and stuff. So I was like, oh, I got some time. Let me do a Lego stream. And I started this build that I need to finish. And I was thinking about maybe doing that today, but it's so nice outside. It doesn't feel like a good day to be in with Lego, but we'll see what happens. I still want to finish this video because I want this to come out today. Video that we'll be talking about here shortly. And that was kind of what I got into the next day. The video I'm editing is my solo trip to Cedar Point. If you don't know what Cedar Point is, I've done a few videos on it. We've gone there, I want to say 2 or 3 times now. It's an amusement park in Sandusky, Ohio, which is about 5 hours away from us. And it's world renowned for its roller coasters. It's a thrill park. There is a kids section there. It's not extensive. You go there to ride roller coasters, and it's like roller coasters from the front of the park all the way to the back of the park. And the reason that I went on Wednesday was because, one, Clark Man isn't tall enough to go on the roller coasters. You have to be 52 inches, I believe. He's just under, like he might hit it, but those rides are freaking scary. They're scary for me as a grown dude. And I don't think he would be down. Like, just getting him to ride the Phoenix this year and liking it, I feel like is an accomplishment. He's only 8. I remember I didn't ride any roller coasters in my life until I was a teenager. And that was just because I went to Knoebels with my buddy, Ben, and he was getting on the Phoenix, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And I did it. And I loved it. And it was like all this time in my life, I didn't do that stuff because I was afraid. Same thing with Impulse, which is like the upside down coaster at Knoebels. I saw it and I was too scared to ride it, but my nephews, who were like little kids at the time, were getting on it. And I was like, man, if these guys are getting on it, I can't back out. So I did it. And of course I loved it. And I teach Clark this all the time because he's always like, doesn't want to do certain things. And I'm like, dude, just try it. And I guarantee you'll like it every single time. And then he like thanks me later, like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I'm like, I told you. Lesson for me too. Again, every lesson that I can teach is a lesson that I'm either learning myself or one that I need to learn. So Cedar Point, similar situation. I think the first time we went there was with Dave from Scott's Toys and his family. And there were some scary rides there, but if Dave was riding them and Cody was riding them, I had to ride them too, and I loved them. The last time we went, it was just Cody and I. We did a couples trip there, and she got like real sick. I mean, I think what happened, the problem was she took some type of pill or something that would be like anti-nausea medication. And one of the side effects of it is that it makes you nauseous. So it's like taking a pill that cures blindness or keeps you from going blind. But one of the side effects is that it'll make you go blind. It's so dumb. So she had like this really bad experience there. Like after we rode Raptor, which is a pretty intense ride. She got through most of the morning okay, but then it was kind of like me just riding a few things by myself. And I decided this year, being that she wasn't totally on board with this, and Clark Man, it wouldn't work for him either. I didn't want them to go to the park and have to wait around for me as I ride rides or coasters all day. I was like, let me find a time that would be great to go. And for me, the best time would be before school's out, after the park's open, while it's not too hot and not too busy. And I was like, this is the time. The middle or the end of May on a Wednesday, right in the middle of the week. No one's going to be there. In fact, I checked like this crowd meter thing or something that I found online, and they said it was going to be a ghost town that day. And the weather was looking fantastic, so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get up at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to drive for 5 hours and go there, ride coasters all day, and then I will start driving back, and when I get tired, I'll get a hotel and stay there that night, and then I'll drive the rest of the way home that morning. That didn't exactly happen because, well, I guess I'll just go through the whole story with you. When I left here, it was like 6:30. I was like, I'm not going to get up. I'm not leaving here at 5 o'clock in the morning. I want to get a good night of sleep. So I left about 6:30, and I drove straight through. I stopped to go to the bathroom at a rest station. I stopped to get gas, drove through the rest of the way, and I got there about 11:30 something in the morning. They open, I think, at 10. So I did burn a couple morning hours. But the lovely thing is, once I got into the park, I realized that the wait times were minuscule. Like Gatekeeper, the first ride that I rode on, that I always ride like, because it's like right the first thing you see, and I'm like, I got to get on that. Had like a 5 minute wait. I would just walk up, and the guy's like, just choose which direction you want to go, how you want to get on. And I was like, okay. So I walk up the stairs, and I was on. Most of the rides throughout the day were like, some of them I walked right on. Some of them had like maybe a 30-minute wait. One issue that I did run into throughout the day was rides are down there all the time. Like last time I went there, I wanted to ride Maverick, which is like one of the best coasters they have there. It was down the entire day. When I went there on Wednesday, there's 11 coasters that I was really interested in riding. Like 3 of them down the entire day. Other ones were like a revolving down and then up and down and then up. And one coaster that I found in particular that I love, like I didn't get to ride ever before, although Cody seems to think that we rode it back when we went with Dave in 2019. I don't remember it. It's called Millennium Force, and it's this giant coaster. It doesn't flip you upside down, but it takes you way up in the air. And then according to the guy, it drops you at an 80-degree angle, and you hit speeds of 94 miles per hour. So it's basically like a completely vertical drop. And I was blown away by this ride, and I loved it. And when I went to ride it, literally, like, I think it had been down. So I didn't know this, but I walked right up, and I walked right onto the ride. There was no line or anything outside. I just literally walked onto it. So sometimes you can time it right when these rides are down. But there was another one, Maverick, for example, was up in the morning. And I was, in my mind, it's towards the back of the park, because you kind of like make your way through. It's like a long, kind of like just straight shot to all these coasters. I was like, I got to get back to Maverick before something bad happens. And when you know it, by the time I got back there to ride it, it was down, of course. In fact, there was like 3 groups of people sitting like in the carts, like waiting to get off of it. And I'm like, oh, Sugar Shack. It's going to be another year where I don't get to ride this. But then I saw them start putting a couple coasters through, where it was just empty ones. And I was like, this is a good sign. So there was a couple people standing there, and we all kind of just got in line and waited. And then it opened up, and I basically got to walk right onto that. There was hardly any line at all. And I noticed, like, by the time I got off of that ride, there was a massive line that had formed there. And then I also noticed that it was down again, because I was going to try to get a shot. It's just ridiculous. I was trying to get a shot of it when I left, because I want to get a shot of, like, it rolling through, because I wasn't like recording while I was on these rides. In fact, they have a very strict policy against recording using your phone or anything on rides for obvious reasons. You don't want to kerplunk somebody in the head. But I wanted to get a shot of it going through for my video, and I couldn't do that because basically like the ride that I was on was like the only one that they ran before they shut it down again. So it's like, oh my gosh, I was lucky in that regard. But another terrible news, like awful news, Annie Ann's was closed for the day. My favorite pretzel place of pretzels, pickles, parks, and pizza, Annie Ann's down. So no pretzel. I did have park. Another thing that was down that, or wasn't even there anymore, that I was really looking forward to was Chick-fil-A. I never get to go to Chick-fil-A. There's none in my area. So anytime I get to go, it's a treat. And I knew there was one in that park that I'd been to twice before. And it was interesting because when I got off of Millennium Force, the time that I walked right on one of my favorite rides there, outside of Maverick, it's like back and forth between those, I smelled this deliciousness. And I was like, what is that smell? I hadn't really eaten much that day, and I was starving. So I get off the ride and I turn the corner, and right there is a Panda Express. It's Chinese food. So I went in there and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this. Even though I'm going to get Chick-fil-A later, I can eat that like for dinner. This is going to be like my lunch. So they had these like combination plates there that were wildly expensive. But what you get with them is think of a paper plate essentially that's squared off into 4 quadrants, like a divided plate. One area I got General Tso's chicken, which I love. And then I got Kung Pao chicken, which I now love from our new Chinese place that we go to. And then there was lo mein noodles and rice. The noodles and rice weren't amazing, but I liked the meat from it. And when I was sitting there eating, I was like, I wonder what is the story with Chick-fil-A? And I looked it up on my phone. I got a lovely spot to sit outside by myself, of course, which I'll talk about in a second. But I come to find out that Chick-fil-A's contract with Cedar Point was not renewed, so Chick-fil-A is no longer in the park. And I was like, first you're going to take my Annie Ann's from me, then you're going to take Chick-fil-A from me. But I did have that, and it was really good. And I was so full. Like, I had to throw most of the rice and stuff away. It was just so much food. But it was $18 for that plate. And then the drink was like $4. So it was like 20 some bucks for lunch there. So you can see how expensive things are. Welcome to amusement parks. But back to the whole solo thing, and I'll talk more about the coasters. But it is it is a little depressing going to an amusement park by yourself, because when you're looking around, you're seeing all these people there that are like with their friends. Like the people that were there that day, there was no one my age there, hardly anyone. It was all teenagers, because and I read this about the crowd meter, it was all like field trips, like the physics class of 2023 is there, the class of 2027. They all have like the matching shirts on. Some of them you can just tell are like friends from schools, but it was just nothing but teenagers everywhere, which wasn't a problem. There was no rowdy people. There was nobody causing trouble or anything, but I really felt kind of like a fish out of water there. And it does suck when everyone's like getting to chat while you're in line. You're just standing there by yourself. But sometimes you got to do these solo runs. And there was an aspect of it that was nice, because I didn't have to really worry about anyone else for the day. Like, it was just like, what do I want to do? Like, I'm okay standing in line. I'm okay not eating now or eating now. We don't have to stop to go to the bathroom an hour into the car ride. I can make it until 9 o'clock when we're, almost in Ohio. No offense, Mrs. Brickatech. Cody, as she's known in some circles. She drinks coffee in the morning, and we always have to stop. Anyways, that was the only sucky part, was being like a solo person. And you do feel kind of like a loser when you're there by yourself. And I would have loved to have those guys with me. And maybe there will be a day. I think I can bring Cody back around, because she got these wristband things that put like a pressure on, I forget what they called, C-bands, put pressure on like a certain part of your wrist that apparently alleviates any kind of sickness. So instead of her taking the anti-nausea pills that make you nauseous, and it was on Raptor, which is a very rough ride. Like, that's the roughest ride that I was on that day. If she takes these C-bands, maybe everything will be okay. Clark Band grows a couple inches. We could go together as a family. I think that'd be awesome. But I rode everything that I wanted to ride. The only thing I didn't ride was Steel Vengeance, which is it's a pretty epic ride, but there's a part of it that I don't like, and that is that your upper body is not like held in at all. Most rides that go upside down and do crazy stuff, you have those big, like almost like chest things that go over your shoulders and your chest and all this. The thrill of that ride is that it just goes over your lap, and it really crushes you in there. And then so your upper body's just dangling out there when it goes upside down. And then the other sucky thing is you got to take all of the things out of your pocket, including your phone, your wallet, your keys, everything. They all have to go into a locker. And I was like, I don't really want to do all that, but my decision was made very easy for me, because it had an hour-long wait all day. And it had gone down at one point too. And I was just like, I don't want to wait an hour for that, especially when there's other rides that are literally just walk on. Like, I could ride 4 rides in the time that I wait for that, maybe more. So that's what I did. I rode everything I wanted to ride. There were a few, like I mentioned, that never came up during the day. But with the rotation, even Valorant, which was down consistently, and Raptor went down, and Maverick went down. They are all down. I was able to find my way through the park and get on the things that I wanted to ride during the times that they were up. And it was pretty cool. Valorant, I can't wait for you guys to see the video of that one. They basically take you up this steep incline, and then there's this vertical drop before you do this loop, and they just dangle you out over it, where you're like looking down at your death that's about to happen, and then they drop you down, and it's so cool. But nonetheless, I think you can probably tell from my discussion of Cedar Point that I really love amusement parks, and I love these thrill rides. There's something special about it to me that, like, I really am terrified of it. Like, when I was going up that hill on Millennium Force, I was scared. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this. But then, like, when you hit over that top and like your breath gets taken away and you're looking down and you're sending it, it's totally worth it. You just have to overcome that fear. And like, every part of me is like, don't do this. Why are we doing this? There's no reason to put us in danger, Greg. Why? And then I do it. And I like that exhilaration, because there's very few things in life that give you the amount of like thrill or like, excitement that going upside down on a roller coaster can do as you're jetting around. It's just such a cool feeling when you're doing the loops. And I just love that park. So if you wanted to ask me, is it worth a 5-hour drive to get there from where we live? I would say yes. It's a pretty straightforward, easy drive. And like I said, I left at 6:30 in the morning. I was there by 11:30, and I enjoyed the whole day there up until about 6:30. And I was like, okay, I pretty much did everything. In fact, I went through and did a couple rides a second time, because, again, some of them were down. So I went back and rode Millennium Force again. I rode Rougarou again, which that ride was crazy. I walked up, and there was no one waiting there. It was like, I think what happened is all of the school kids were pretty much gone. The buses leave at a certain time, right? And they have to drive back home. So like after 5 o'clock, literally is like tumbleweeds blowing through the place. I went to get on Rougarou, which is a really cool, like upside down roller coaster ride, very smooth, which is my favorite thing about it. I walk up, and there's a cart just waiting there. All of the seats are empty, and I get on. There's a row of like 5 people that you would ordinarily be sitting beside, or 4 people other than you, I think, or maybe 3. I don't know. It was just me in the row. They didn't even have the carts full. Like they sent it with maybe like 1/4 of the capacity, and I was like, dang, this is awesome. So I did that one, and then I did Gatekeeper again on the way out, which again had no wait. I just walked up and got on that. So it was a crazy time at Cedar Point, especially compared to past times we went, because I think when we went with Dave, it was like just after July 4th. The place was crazy. And when I went with Cody, we ended up doing, because of how crazy it was, we ended up doing like the fast pass thing. But this time, if you did a fast pass, and I saw a few people doing it, you got completely ripped off, because the pricing is, if you want to, at the day of the park, if you want to go in there and pay for an admission ticket, it's $80. If you do it online up to a day before, it's $50. And if you do it the day of online, it's $60. So you definitely want to do it online. And then they just give you like a QR code to scan. Also, parking is about $20 some. So I was about $100 into the place getting in there. But a fast pass is $95. And again, it could be worth it on a very busy day, because they just put you pretty much right to the front of the line. You get to skip the whole queue. And if, say, there's a hour wait for every ride, and you skip 45 minutes of that, how long is it until that $95 becomes worth it? Because instead of riding 4 rides that day or 5 rides, you got to ride 10 rides. So it does become worth it, especially like if you have the money to do it. Now, if you had a family of 4 or 5 people going there and everybody does that, it's a very expensive day. But still not as expensive as Disney or Universal Studios. So I still say affordable. I think $96 if you want the accounting on this, because I'm a financial guy still at heart. $96 on the admission and parking. I spent like $24 on food. I bought no souvenirs, nothing else, no extra drinks or anything like that. I was good for the day after eating that Chinese food, which, Chinese food could go one or two ways. And I thought about that after I started eating it. I'm like, oh God, I hope I don't get sick, like riding a roller coaster after eating Chinese food, but it was all good. And I rolled out of there at like 6:45, close to 7:00. And I was like, I think I can make it home. I don't think I need to like stop and get a hotel. Like why drive and then stop at like 8 or 9 o'clock for a hotel and then spend another $100 or $200? Because that's what I think the going rate for a hotel is. Probably more when you just walk in and you're like, hello, sir, I'd like a room tonight. They're like, do you? So I was like, I'm just going to drive it home. And I started driving. I stopped and filled up some gas. I got some very unnutritious snacks at like the service center there. And then I just drove it home while eating my snacks, listening to podcasts. I started listening to music just to kind of keep myself going. And I got home at 11:30 that night. So I drove for 5 hours. I was at the park for about 7 hours, maybe 8 hours. And then I drove another 5 hours home. Long day, but I got it all done in one day. Spent no money on hotels, which is what we've done before. Typically what we would do and what we've done previously is we drove the 4.5 hours the day before, stayed in a hotel, went out for dinner, all that stuff. And the next morning we'd get up at like 10 o'clock in the morning, or before that. We'd be there when they open at 10. We'd do all the park stuff and then drive home that night. So that drive, that's unescapable regardless. But I find that the 5-hour drive to Ohio to be like way easier than the 3-hour drive it takes, or 3.5 hours it takes to get to Philadelphia. It's just a straight shot on 80. The only issues that I ran into during the whole drive were rigs that one of them's driving 70, and then the one that's passing him is driving 70.5 miles an hour, and it takes him a good 5 miles to pass this truck. So you're just sitting there like, buddy, please just pass the truck. And then other things is just like people that just park in the passing lane. Like I was driving home, no other cars in the road. There's just this car driving the passing lane. So I come up behind him. You don't want to pass in the driving lane because you never know when the person might actually get over. And I think you'd be at fault if you were passing someone in the driving lane. So I'm like sitting behind this person. I'm like, okay, are you going to do anything? Nope. So I get in the driving lane, I pass him, and then I see he's still in the passing lane forever. So my question to you, we got a number of people listening to this podcast. If you're one of those people that consistently drive in the passing lane for miles and miles at a time, whether there's cars there or cars not there, like you're like clogging traffic. Why? Why do you do that? What's the purpose of you being in the passing lane? And if you don't do that, what's your speculation on people that camp in the passing lane? Is it because you don't think about it and you're just over there maybe zoning out? Is it because you think that, like, that road's smoother? Is it because you don't want to be inconvenienced when you come up on a car that's in the driving lane and really don't care about people that are behind you that maybe want to pass you at the speed you're going? I'm curious. What do you think the reason is? Because it's very annoying. There was the only two things that annoyed me the whole way. Other than that, it was just I had to go through tolls in Ohio, which kind of blows. I have no idea what they charge me for those because I have the Easy Pass now, where you just put money on like this on your account, and then there's this thing you stick in your windshield. So who knows what they got me for? But it is funny. Like, as soon as you get into Ohio, they're like, "Oh, Pennsylvania's coming in, cha-ching," or wherever you're from. Let's collect some money from you guys. So overall, a very fun day. Solo trip straight through. I don't think I would have been able to do that with the family, I guess, unless everyone was sleeping. But I had a fun time. I got to ride all the coasters, some more than once, some not at all, depending on when they're down. But I had fun at Cedar Point. The only thing that I would change is make sure all the coasters are up if it's all humanly possible, which I guess it's not. Maybe that's just a common thing with these roller coaster parks where things are just, for all I know, it wasn't necessarily a break. It could have just been they have to rotate maintenance just to make sure everything's good with them. But my Annie Ann's would have been a lovely morning snack. Maybe it would have saved me from the Chinese food, but I did like the Panda Express. And Chick-fil-A, why'd you have to leave? So if I could have done Annie Ann's, Chick-fil-A, and ridden or rode the few roller coasters that were down the entire day, like Gemini was down, and what else? Magnum XL, I think, is one that was down. You probably don't know these ones, but those who've been to Cedar Point know them. Never got to ride those ones, so I would have loved to ride those. But I got to ride Maverick finally after it being down the whole entire time last time we were there. And I found a new favorite roller coaster, possibly in Millennium Force. So winning the entire day, I had so much fun. Thursday when I came back, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, this is the other half of the week, and the other big thing that took up this week was Bud and Deb's yard sale. That's my mother and father-in-law. The people that I go yard selling with, where they're always getting stuff, well, they sometimes have a yard sale too. In fact, they have it every year where they sell off things that they don't use anymore. Mostly with Bud, my father-in-law, he buys things at yard sales on the cheap and then resells them and stuff because he likes doing that. And I don't blame him for that. So we went over on Thursday to help them like set up. And then Friday we went there in the morning to like host the yard sale with them. And we had some stuff in it as well. And then we did that again on Saturday too, where Clarkman was able to come along and he set up Clarkman's Snack Shack, where he was having he was all excited about this. He did it last year too, I think, where he had like snacks and sodas and things for sale. And he was going to like take that money and save it or whatever. I don't think he has any plans to use it. It was just a matter of having like a little business. So he did that. And I won't go into too much detail because I shot a whole video of the entire day. I did that at Cedar Point too, but what were my takeaways from the day? One, it's incredible how much stuff people have and how much stuff people buy. Like, it was crazy Friday. From 7 a.m. to like 10 a.m., there was just a constant flow of people coming to this yard sale and buying almost everything. Like, by Saturday, there wasn't much left. So my advice to you, if you are a yard sale enthusiast or garage sale enthusiast, try to go out on Fridays now, because Friday's the new Saturday. It was way busier Friday morning than it was on Saturday morning, which could be the fact that it's Memorial Day weekend and some people had off on Friday, so they went through. And maybe if they went through on Friday, Saturday is like, I'm not going to go to the same yard sale. But Fridays are where all the good stuff is. By Saturday morning, most of the stuff was gone, especially all the treasures. Although one man's junk is another man's treasure. So everyone had a good time. It was fun hosting it. We helped set it up and take it down and all that stuff, helping the in-laws out. And the weather was incredible. And I had so much fun. So that was like half my week. And that really kept me from doing like my Lego thing. People on my Lego channel probably think I'm like dead. I think I maybe made one video this week in that live stream. So that kind of sucks, because it's so hard, like, especially with the weather getting nice and all the things that we're doing, it's hard to like balance all these things. There's so many things I want to do and I don't have enough time to do it. One thing I did find time to do though this week, as we segue into Greg's arcade news, I kept playing Breath of the Wild. It's the Legend of Zelda game that came out, I want to say like 6 years ago. Don't quote me on that though. I know some of you guys, in fact, we had a comment last week that just corrected me on what year Toy Story came out. If you're going to sit here and listen to me talk for half an hour or an hour about my week in life and all the things that are going on, and that's your only takeaway is to correct somebody on the year. It's just like that one time months ago about what's on your refrigerator door. And it's like, I sit here and I lay out my entire life, and it's just like all you got was a correction out of that. Frustrating. I guess it's better than nothing, or maybe it's not. Breath of the Wild. I have it here. It's a fun game. It came out, I won't say when it came out. I think 2017 maybe. It's been out for 6 years. The reason I started playing this, and I think I probably talked about this last week, is that Tears of the Kingdom, the new Breath of the Wild, or new Zelda came out, and everyone loves it. They say it's the game of our generation, or this generation. And I was like, I gotta play Breath of the Wild. So I started playing it, and I really enjoy the game. I don't know how many hours I'm into it, because it doesn't tell me. I look up like the hours that I played things, and it just says, started playing 7 days ago. But I've been playing this week, and it's crazy to me how much time passes while I'm playing it. Like Clark was sitting here beside me playing a game, and I was playing that last night. And then the computer crashed or did something, and I was like, all right, that's probably about enough time for you to play. And that was like an hour in. Next time I looked at the clock, it had been another hour and a half later. So I had played for 2.5 hours. But it's one of those things, and this game really speaks to me because it's what I love in gaming. And that's just giving me this open world, allowing me to do whatever I want. And that's what Clark likes too. Like Minecraft, for example. He likes to build and destroy and modify. I like to go on grand adventures. Like my favorite game, I would say my favorite game, and I don't think this game's going to top that. As much as people love these Zelda games, I loved Fallout 3 for the PlayStation 3. That's exactly what that game is. Like you come out of this vault, and there's this whole world out there that you can do whatever you want with, and there's a story that's happening, there's all these missions, there's things that you may not even come across in the game. There's things that you may have this experience with that maybe most other players don't. It's just wild, the amount of stuff that's in there. Skyrim is another one like that, and I've been wanting to do a replay of that game. But Breath of the Wild is sort of like that, where you're on this big adventure, and that's what I love about it. And there's a little bit of puzzle aspects of it as well when you go into these shrines that I really enjoyed. And just seeing these various parts of this world that's out there and talking to all the people and stuff, it speaks to me. So I'm going to continue playing this game. I have no idea how many hours I'm going to put into it, but I'm going to play it through to completion. And after that, I'll decide whether I want to get right into Tears of the Kingdom, which would be an easy thing to do because I'll be like fresh, but it might be a little bit of burnout, especially if I put like a crazy amount of time into this. I think that could probably maybe not be the best thing, and maybe I want to jump into some other stuff as well. But I've been Greg's arcading that. I've streamed it a couple times. I wasn't going to like stream it because I just wanted to kind of have that experience. But then I was like, hey, since I'm playing it, I might as well. And people seem to enjoy it. I did make a rule, like I don't want any kind of like spoilers. I don't want any hints. I don't want anybody to like, I think they call it backseat gaming. I don't want anyone backseat gaming me where they're like, oh, Greg, go over to the thing and grab that. Your life will be easier. No, I want to make mistakes on my own. I want to make discoveries on my own. And that's why I'm trying to avoid everything. And I haven't watched any like walkthroughs or like hints or secrets or anything about this game. I'm just playing it really fresh. And I think sometimes that's the best way because we get so tied up in like reviews and finding out as much information as we can with things that not knowing that stuff is like a really special experience anymore. Like there used to be a day where you'd go to the store, you look at a cover of a game, and you're like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Look at the back, you look at the pictures, and you're like, yeah, that's a great game. What's a notoriously bad game for like the Nintendo? Any movie tie-in game, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, anything with LJN who made it. You think, oh man, I love Back to the Future. This game's gonna be great. Garbage. Wayne's World. I love the movie Wayne's World, and they made a game for it. It's terrible. But I was like, oh, Wayne's World game, yes. Now, if I had looked at reviews, if reviews had existed then, especially online reviews where people lambast stuff, and there's Metacritic where you can see like a culmination of all the reviews that people give things and get a score out of. I probably wouldn't have made those mistakes back then, but there was something special about that. I remember a movie that I watched called Interstellar. You may have heard of that I knew nothing about going in. I just was like, oh, Interstellar, I'll watch it. And I was blown away by that movie. And I feel like if I had researched it and read about it and known too much about it, I wouldn't have had the same experience. So I like to go in blank, and I don't like to let other people make my decisions for me. If you tell me something sucks, I may be less likely to want to go see it or to enjoy it. And there's definitely a lot of that groupthink mentality. I especially see it in the Lego space where if an influencer or someone that you respect tells you like, oh, Breath of the Wild, is an example. It's terrible. I had no fun with it at all. Then everyone's like, yeah, it kind of does suck, even if like it's something good. And then I see the opposite happen too, where someone's like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And everyone's like, yeah, I know, right? It's just like you follow order, which is, I guess, what we're trained to do. Anyways, that's all I gamed with this week. We did download a game yesterday that Clark's really enjoying. It's called Beam NG, which is like a driving, open world destruction simulator, right up his alley. And I was like, he's gonna love this game because he was asking about playing Grand Theft Auto, and I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I want to drive around with the car and, go wherever I want and do things. I'm like, why don't we try this out? And he played it last night and loved the game. Unfortunately, my PC, I would love to stream stuff from this, but when I'm playing these hardcore, like graphic intense games, and then I try to stream it and have camera on and stuff, my computer cannot handle that. So I think I need to upgrade something. I need to talk to my nephew about that. Like, do I need a new graphics card? Do I need more RAM? If so, how do I go about doing that? I'm pretty sure I could handle it if I just watch some YouTube videos, but we need to do something with my computer to get it to the point where I can do things with it that I want to do, which is, entertaining the world, I suppose, or at least 15 people on my arcade channel. Last but not least here, before we get into listener feedback, again, my week was really tied up in the whole yard sale thing, and the Cedar Point thing was just like the highlight, of course. I got into a TikTok rabbit hole, like we often do. And this is one that I did not see myself going down, but it was in the world of Rolex watch arbitrage in New York City. I found this guy that basically goes to like a watch dealer or seller, and he tries to buy watches and gets a good deal on them or whatever. Then he takes that watch, not for himself, but then he takes it to like another seller and he tries to sell it to them for more money than he bought it for. And he's like the middleman. And ordinarily, like, this wouldn't seem interesting. Like, he just deals with like all these Rolexes. And I don't know anything about Rolexes. I'm not interested in watches. The only watch that I own is my Apple Watch, and I'm happy with that. But there's something about this guy's personality and charisma, and like the deals that they try to do with these watches, and the prices going back and forth, and how they're both fighting for trying to get the best deal, that I find really entertaining. And I just like started like going through this entire catalog, and it's kind of a little bit of repetition because it's like you start recognizing the same faces of places he's going, but he's like the guy that gets it here and takes it there and does a deal. He's like the eBay, instead of like someone listing something and then someone else buying it. He's like the guy that's like taking it and then selling it, and he makes decent money doing it, it seems. But it's wildly entertaining, and I'm now apparently interested in New York City Rolex watch arbitrage. That's what happened, and I have no regrets. I'm enjoying TikTok. I find that the algorithm serves new creators to me really well. There's lots of duds that I skip by, but there's not much lost in that. You just kind of blast past it. But sometimes I find things that kind of get me thinking about stuff, and then I go on Google and I start researching it and finding it out. And I'm thinking that this may be the new version of books, like going in and reading a book is great, but it's a huge commitment, and maybe you're going to take something away from that, especially if you read something that's nonfiction. But with TikTok, it's like, okay, I got a little dash of info. Let me research that, and then you like a book, and this is the difference, and this is where TikTok excels, I think. A book you have to actively seek out and then be like, okay, I'm going to read this book and I'm going to learn this. Whereas TikTok is like, I don't know what I'm going to get into today. Let me see. Oh, Rolexes. I don't know much about Rolexes. What makes a good Rolex? What's expensive? What's a Rolex go for? And then you start looking into that and finding out about it. And then all of a sudden you have this new batch of information about Rolexes that you didn't have before. Will it serve you at any point in life? Maybe, maybe not. But it's like, this is something that wasn't even on my my radar, for example. So instead of like reading a book about something that I already like had an interest in or knew about and wanted to know more, this is like completely out there. It's like exploring new frontiers. And that's why I think TikTok may be more valuable than books, said no one ever other than me. It just depends on what you're watching and then where you take it from there, or what you get into. So the algorithm will serve you what you want. And if TikTok isn't serving you well, or if you don't like the videos, it's probably you. It's probably not them. But you can always just skip stuff if it's not what you're looking for. Don't go on TikTok, though. You will lose your life to the endless scroll and the constant hit and addiction that is the slot machine of videos that they serve up to you. Anyways, why do I hype up TikTok and then I tell you not to do it? It's dangerous, guys. Let's get into listener feedback here, starting with Felix, who says, I have 430 hours in Breath of the Wild over the last 5 years, and I already have about 15 hours in Tears of the Kingdom. I've been playing since launch. I was blown away by that. 430 hours. I don't think I can afford to put 430 hours in this game. But if you think about over 5 years, you're putting about, what is that? About 80 hours a year. So you're working, if you did this as your full-time job, it's going to sound like a lot. If you did this as your full-time job, you're working for 2 weeks playing Breath of the Wild per year. It's quite impressive. It's crazy to me that even after 400 hours, you're still finding a reason to be there and things to do. That's the most impressive thing. Speaking of that, I looked at Clark's activity on Minecraft, and according to the Switch, it says he has about 115 hours into Minecraft. That to me seems really high for the Switch, but really low for his Minecraft playing in general, because he's been playing that game basically every day for the last 4 years. Although now that Universe Sandbox is out, he's been really into that, and he hasn't really picked up Minecraft. And then he started getting into this driving BeamNG game. So I don't know, maybe the tides are turning. But when you start adding up that time, and then you start thinking, this is not a good way to think, but it's like, what could I have done with that time? What productive thing I could have done? It doesn't matter, because you had fun, and having fun is a product within itself. So keep playing your game. I hope you're enjoying Tears of the Kingdom. Let me know how it is. You're probably, if you're 15 hours in the first week or so, you're probably at least 30 hours in now. So let me know if you're enjoying it. I'm sure you are if you're that into Breath of the Wild. Next one comment comes from Ashley, who says, I have a lot of Disney VHS tapes from when I was a kid. Are they also not valuable? Besides the value, though, I honestly just want to get rid of them, but I don't feel like throwing them away. Any suggestions? They are not valuable. I see them at yard sales. I looked at them on eBay. Like, nobody's buying Disney VHS. No one's buying Disney DVDs or Blu-rays because everything's on Disney Plus now. I think a lot of people probably aren't even having DVD players anymore. I think they're getting unhooked and gotten rid of, or just not used, because the convenience factor of watching a movie on your phone or on your iPad or on your TV and just clicking some buttons is way easier than going and getting a disc and putting it in. We love convenience. And I'm seeing Disney movies just sitting there. Nobody's buying them. We sold DVDs this year at the yard sale for 50 cents a piece and didn't sell many. DVDs just are out of fashion at this point. But so they are worthless, yes, unless they're worth something to you. And if they're worth something to you, they're not worthless. They're just worthless in a commercial sense. If you don't feel like throwing them away, you could donate them to like Goodwill or American Rescue Workers or any kind of like thrift store you have. But they're most likely just going to sit there and no one's going to buy them either, unless someone is like a collector that comes along. That being said, recordable VHS tapes I bought sealed. I find that they're worth some money, like the ones that you can record things onto. People still want those. So I bought some of those, and I'll let you know how they sell on eBay once I get them listed. I haven't put them on just yet. But VHSs, I guess that would be probably the exception rather than the norm. Next comment comes from Jasper, who says, here in the Netherlands, yard sales are non-existent, but they do have car park sales where everyone tries to sell their goods. It mostly happens on King's Day, which is a national holiday. So again, car boot sales, very different, where you are like walking down an area and you're just checking out people's wares, as opposed to like us. For example, this week I went up through town just to see if there's any yard sales in the community that we were in. And there's a sign, and it's like yard sales. Like, okay, great. I turn up here, and then there's another sign. It says like, it's the same sign, but like another arrow. So I turn up there, and then there's another sign, and it's like up this really long dirt driveway, only to get all the way up there to find out that there's nothing that I want. Well, there was, but they sold the Lego collection they had first thing in the morning the day before, and I just shook my fist in anger, because you can't be everywhere at once. But it's a long haul for oftentimes not a great payout. But I enjoy the adventure. I like going out. I like searching. I like just stopping off on the road and seeing what people have. But it would definitely be preferable, I guess, if I could just walk down the line and see what people have and have it all in one spot. But then the competition is going to be that much greater too. So the wins and the losses, I enjoy going out yard sailing or garage sailing or whatever you may call it, car booting. Next comment comes from Rixar, who says, this is about my invention of the week idea last week, where I had the cooler backpack where you put the ice packs against your back to cool you and to also cool your drinks. He says, well, the backpack idea is neat. I think he's Shark Tanking me right now. He's out on investing. He says thermodynamics make it impractical. If you ever use an ice pack, to tendon injury, you'll know it doesn't stay cold very long. Might keep your back cool for a few minutes and leaves you with a heavy backpack. It would be heavy. Maybe have an insulated fan on the backpack. Not trying to kill the dream, though. A portable air conditioner would be fascinating. Now, that's genius. If you could, how about a thing that comes up over your head and you just like, you're almost in like a bee suit, but it's just an air conditioner inside there. So when you're standing in line at Cedar Point, your backpack converts into an air conditioner and you're just standing there watching the coaster go by as the cold air conditioned breeze is blowing on you. We need a drink holder on this thing. I mean, I've got big plans. We do need a way, though, to cool you down and to cool your drinks at the same time without it being super heavy. And I'm thinking a portable air conditioner might be just that. In fact, TikTok is, maybe they've been listening to my conversations, but they're serving me this ad that's for this cooler that you fill with ice. And then you put your drinks in there even. And then it has like a rechargeable battery thing on it that actually air conditions your air. I think these things exist. I think people call them swamp coolers or something like that. We've never had anything like that. We used to have window air conditioners, but now we have central air. But air conditioning is a very important thing when it starts getting hot out, and something we need to figure out. What's the next thing? Like we're getting into artificial intelligence. We're in augmented reality. What's the next thing for air conditioning? Stay tuned to find out. Probably not for me. My idea is it's not going to work, I don't think, because he is right. Like, you're walking around with say you have your backpack on and you're like, ooh, nice cold back. And then it like your back heats that up and then they're not cold. And then your drinks aren't cold. And then you're just losing. Anyways, let's go on to other news here. As my Shark Tank idea gets crushed from Canadian guy who says Ninja Gaiden. This is a game I was playing last week. I still haven't beat it yet. I haven't gone back in because it's like, do I want to die 1,000 times in a row in Ninja Gaiden for the Nintendo? Or do I want to make some progress in Breath of the Wild? And the Breath of the Wild is more appealing, I guess, because you're like, I just have to make it to the village over here. If I get to that village and I talk to this person, who knows what story that's going to unlock. Ninja Gaiden's like, okay, I died. All right, I made it 2 steps further, I died. All right, I made it 4 steps beyond that, I died. Okay, I died at the beginning again. I got to remember what I did. Okay, I made it to that spot, died. Ninja Gaiden. He says, you get the idea. He says, there you go, Greg. Congratulations. If your goal is to make me relive a childhood nightmare, you have succeeded. Spent so much time attempting to beat that game. Dang, I'm quivering just thinking about it. Thanks. Now I'm getting the NES out and not resting until I'm victorious. Awesome podcast again. Missed last week. Hope the vacation was great. I told him, I left a response. I said, let me know when you actually beat the game. He's probably still working on it right now. I guarantee it. But I like I said, I've seen people beat it in 30 minutes, not even using all of the abilities. So it can be done. Just a lot of practice and memorization is what that game comes down to, and it's brutal. Breath of the Wild, much more forgiving. In fact, if you die in this game or get a game over, you have 1 life and you die, they basically just boot you up like 3 feet from where you died. There's no consequences. Kids these days are so soft. Playing 430 hours and never having to have a game over and losing your entire soul. It's much better, actually. Last comment here comes from Ozzy Guy, a repeat offender. He says, great podcast again. Thanks for the feedback about Lego. And I think you're right. I'll buy more to get the stock levels up. Yeah, you got to have some parts to work with before you go crazy building stuff. He says, then I got listening to my 2023 goals afterwards. I think it's time for you to revisit what you said earlier in the year to get you back on track. I think he thinks I'm off track. Plenty of things for you to achieve. I want to hold you accountable and make sure you're still trying to achieve your goals. Re-listen to what you said. You can do it. I'm doing the same. I think that's a great idea. In fact, we're going to be doing a little traveling here in June. So I think it would be great if I did an episode where I went back, because I don't even know what January Greg said was his goals. So I'm going to go back, rewatch that, see what my goals were then, how I'm making out with those, and then see what my goals are now, if they align, and how I've done, how I'm doing, and where I'm going. I think that'd be a great episode in a week where maybe I'm not here necessarily to give you an update on what happened that week. So if you see that episode, it'll be like a kind of like a filler of sorts. There will be value in it, but it'll be something for you to listen to when I can't actually make an episode. So it's better than nothing. And I think that's kind of cool because you can like be like, oh, we're halfway. How are we doing? And according to him, like I haven't listened to it in 4 or 5 months now. I guess almost 6 months now. He says, plenty of things for you to achieve and need to revisit it to get back on track. So I'm failing at whatever I said I was going to do. Probably fitness, losing weight, probably making videos. I don't know. Reading books. Probably not watching TikTok. That was probably one of my goals. I don't know. Anyways, that was my week in a nutshell. Thank you for that idea, though, Aussie guy. I'm definitely going to make that an episode so we can like, how are we doing? What halfway through, how are we doing? And then I'll talk more about things I'm doing now. Oh, selling on eBay, probably one of my goals too. If it wasn't then, I was currently working on that. Maybe I already checked that one off the list. Anyways, that was my week. Lots of fun at Cedar Point. Did that whole adventure, and that was like a memorable trip. When I'm excited to finish editing that video, which I'll do while this is exporting. The yard sale stuff was fun. Again, another video from that. The New York City video, wait until October. I'm going to put that out the 1 year anniversary, but I'll at least have that edited. And I'm just going to keep grinding away. This is Clark's last week of school. I'd say full week, but it's only 4 days. And then he's got like 2.5 days next week. So I don't know. We got summertime. We're going to be doing stuff together. Hopefully doing some Legoing together. Obviously gaming. We're going to be going on trips. We're going to be doing outside summer stuff. There is so much opportunity in this world. And I think about that a lot. I think about people that, are down on their luck or not feeling good. And I just can't help but look at this world from an optimistic viewpoint and think like, man, there's so many things you could do. Even if you're at the lowest point, there's so much out there. And I'm excited to go tackle it all. So thank you all. And I hope you are too, obviously. Thank you all for tuning in to This Week in My Life Missing Pieces episode number. Who knows? I'm going to try to get back to numbering these if I can figure out what it's at again. I hope you guys have a glorious week this week. Memorial Day. Have a good one if you celebrate that here in the United States. But if not, enjoy the weather getting nice outside and summer on the cusp of all of our lives. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll find you all in the next Missing Pieces.